Hey, Math 9, here we go. Operations with integers. So we are adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. In this video, I'm going to spend a bit of time doing that operation, but also talking more just about how to understand positives and negatives, how they relate, and how we can consider them when adding or subtracting them. This is more about deeper understanding than it is about straight procedure. More often than not, this is where mistakes occur. And it's a shame because we do all the hard work, but then we make strange little adding errors. So first thing I want you to think about is positive versus negative. They are quantities of things. You have positive things, you have negative things. You have happy things, you have sad things. You have fun things, you have not fun things. They're just opposite sort of quantities. So if you had 5, for instance, the distance from 5 to 0 is 5 units. And if you had -5, the distance from -5 to 0 is 5 units. So the difference between the negative realm and the positive realm is the same when we get to heading back towards 0, when we get to combining. If you think about -5 and +5, those are opposites of each other, and when they combine, they would cancel each other out. You would get 0. So that's an important concept. -1 and +1 gives you 0. -2 and +2 gives you 0, right? They are opposites of one another that get you back to 0. They cancel each other out. So let's look at this in action. Addition is generally quite easy. We like addition statements because we're grouping things together. We're bringing things together. Now, I'd be willing to bet that almost all of you would absolutely crush 12 plus 5. And if you have to use your fingers, use your fingers. But 12 plus 5, you are adding two positive things. The 12 is positive, the 5 is positive. We just add those positive things together, and we have 17 positive things. When you're adding negatives, it's the same. You have 6 negatives. You're adding 4 negatives. Well, it's just like adding 6 and 4. You still have 10. The only difference is you have 10 negative things. That's why we like addition statements. Adding two positive things and adding two negative things gives you the exact same amount, just positive or negative, right? 6 plus 4 is 10. -6 plus -4 is 10, but negative. So it's about quantity. Addition of one negative and one positive is when things get a little bit harder. Now I'm going to show you a couple ways to consider this, okay? Because remember, you're grouping things together. You're bringing these things together. And if you think about the fact that -12, and we'll go back to our addition statement, is the same as -7 plus -5, right? Because, well, 7 plus 5 is 12. So it only makes sense that -7 plus -5 is -12. And the reason I chose this is because now I have a statement that looks like this. And we just finished talking about the fact that a negative and a positive cancel out. So -5 plus 5 is 0. So what are you left with? 7 negatives. Now another way to consider this, if you have a negative number and you're adding, so in this case we have a negative number and a positive number because we're adding +5, you're looking at a difference, right? You're starting at -12 on the number line and you're heading back towards 0. And you're heading back 5 units. So you're going to get to -7. Well, that's the same as starting at 12 on the number line and heading back towards 7. You're moving 5 units. So if you have one negative and one positive, it's the same as doing 12 minus 5. You get 7. The only difference in this case is we had more negatives to begin with, so we have -7. I like both ways to consider this. And again, this is more about thinking your way through what you have and what you're doing than it is about how do I key this into a calculator? What's the procedure? Let's get a little bit deeper with our numeracy. So now here we have 6 plus -4. Well, 6 is just 2 plus 4, and then plus -4. So those two things will cancel out. What are you left with? Just a 2. So again, that's why we like addition. Addition is nice. We bring things together. So where things get a little bit more complicated is when we subtract, but I want to talk to you in a second. These two previous examples, we have -6 plus -4, and we liked that. But that's actually the same as saying -6 minus 4, right? Here we are adding a positive, or sorry, oh no, we are adding a negative. So we are increasing the bad, you can think of it that way, or the sad, right? And here we are subtracting a positive. So we're taking away the good. The net effect is the same thing. Adding bad, taking away good is the same net effect. Our day is not getting as good. So these statements are the same. So when you see -6 minus 4, it's just like saying -6 plus -4. And you can read this to yourself in a number of different ways. -6 minus +4. -6 take away 4 more. -6 minus 4. Like, just get into a routine where you're thinking about what is happening. Because here we have 6 plus -4. That might seem like, ugh, why would we say that? That is what you remember from elementary school. That's just 6 minus 4. Right? When you're in elementary school, you were taught 6 minus 4 because we didn't know negative numbers existed. Because in reality, 6 minus 4 is just 6 plus -4. Now, if we know that's 2, then we should know that that is 2. So it's all about these relationships between the numbers. Now here I say you can rearrange numbers. A lot of times this blows people's minds. The sign in front of a number belongs to that number when you look at a statement. So here we have -5 plus 9. You could rearrange this. So you write it as plus 9 followed by -5. And the thing is the plus is redundant. We don't write it. And now we just have a subtraction statement. 9 minus 5. That's easy. It's 4. Here we have positive 14. So we'll just write 14 first. And then -6. Just rearrange the statement. And that's easier. It's 8. So if you can rearrange the statement to make your life easier, go for it. But again, it's deeper than just computing. So what about when we have subtraction? Well, if you have 6 minus -3, all I want you to do is at least be able to estimate whether or not this is going to be a positive or negative answer. And think about what you have. You start with 6 things. You are taking away bad things. If you're taking away bad things, your day's getting better. So this must be positive. And it's got to be positive for the reason that you're taking away bad and your day is already good to begin with. For the second one, you start with +8. You're having a +8 kind of day. But we take away +10. You're taking away more than you had. Your answer is going to be negative. All right? Think a little bit deeper. Here we go again. We can estimate also. Now, this is a similar statement to regular subtraction. Now, in this case, we have -6. We're having a -6 kind of moment. And this is great because we're taking away negative things. But did we take away enough negative things to get us positive? No, we had 6, we only took away 3. We're still at -3, still negative. Whereas in the example on the right, we start off at -8, we take away -10. We're taking away more than we had, which means we're getting better. So we're actually ending up at +2. We'll look at that a little bit different here in a minute, but this is about estimating and understanding. What are you taking away? What did you have? Where do you end up? So every subtraction statement can be changed to an addition statement. Sometimes it's necessary, other times it's not. So if you look at this first one, -6 minus -3, well, that's the same as -6 plus 3. And if you wanted to think about this as a subtraction statement, rearrange these, 3 minus 6. Well, if you have 3 and you take away 6, you end up at -3. So it might be a bit easier if you change it to an addition statement. Or from here, remember that -6 is -3 plus -3, and then we have +3. So those are going to cancel. What are you left with? -3. This next one is a nice addition statement. So if we have -6 minus 3, that's the same as -6 plus -3. Now you're just adding 2 negatives together, and you get -9. This I'm not going to change to addition because this is classic. It's just 3. And then here again, subtracting a negative is the same as adding, so that statement is easier to understand. So you're more than welcome to change the statements if it makes your life easier. All right, a couple more to go. This is what I talked about with the one positive and one negative. Look at 5 minus 2. That means we start here and we take away 2, we end up at 3. If we have 2 and we take away 5, well, rearrange this statement. So you have negative 5 plus 2. You're at negative 5 and you're adding 2, which sends you back towards 0. You're still at 3. So the statements give you the same difference. The difference is 2, the difference is 2. The answer is 3, and the answer is 3, but in the negatives. So look at that in play here. If I have 5.43 plus 3.12, when we add decimals, we have to line up the decimal points. This is just a classic addition statement. So we'll set it up and we'll just add it up. 5, 5, 8. This, adding us a negative, is just subtraction. So again, we can set this up as a subtraction statement. And then we subtract 3 minus 2, 4 minus 1, 5 minus 3. Those are easy if we look at them as lining up our decimals properly. Where it gets a little bit muddled is this scenario. Now here, this is where you got to think that difference. One's negative, one's positive. So the difference between negative 5.43 and 3.12 is the same as the difference between 5.43 and 3.12. We subtract the smaller number from the bigger number independent of the sign. And we end up with 1, 3, 2. The only thing in this scenario is we started with more negative, so our answer has to be negative. In the next example, this can be rewritten as an addition statement of two negatives. So now we're just adding these values together. The answer is not 8.55, it's negative 8.55. So looking at how we consider the given equation can help us solve it. Multiplying and dividing positives and negatives, there's nothing tricky here, there's nothing fancy, there's nothing I can help you with. It's just the fact that for either one, if the signs are the same, multiplication or division, if the signs are the same, the answer is positive. So a positive times a positive, positive. A negative times a negative, positive. And then same with division. And then in opposite signs, the answers are negative. So if you multiply a positive by a negative, or you divide a negative by a positive, or vice versa, your answer will be negative. There's no crazy way to think of it. The only example I can come up with for negatives is a double negative English statement. So you could say like don't is a negative statement, and then not is a negative statement. So if I said don't not eat, that means eat. So the two negatives cancel each other out. You could think of a negative and a positive as just a positive negative conjunction of words. Positive word, negative word, do not means don't. But realistically, there's no mathematical tool for that. So try to not get caught making errors in adding and subtracting numbers by slowing yourself down and thinking a little bit harder than you normally would. All right, next video is going to be on everybody's favorite, fractions and decimals. We'll spend a bit of time on fraction basics. There will be a ton of short videos to come in the fraction section. Not as many for these integers because I covered most of it here. All right, great work. Keep it up. You're doing awesome.